Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. And guess what? It's going to impact immigration big time. In this video, we'll talk about Trump's new immigration plan for 2025, what to expect. We'll talk about the 5 areas where immigration will be impacted under President Trump. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, we now have a new president-elect, Donald Trump, and he will take office on January 2025. Before that date, the old administration is still in effect. So if you need to take action on your immigration matters, you should do it now before the new administration takes place. And I'll tell you why. Previously, the president mentioned many things that he wanted to do under his administration, which he did as well while he was president. The reason why you want to take action on your immigration matter now is because once Trump becomes president, he's going to do certain things to make the immigration process much more difficult. He did it when he was president before, and the new promises about immigration changes are quite elaborate. Some of the things he mentioned are as follows. He promised he's going to do mass deportations. He was going to set up mass detention camps for undocumented immigrants. He promised to hire thousands of Border Patrol agents to prevent people from entering the United States. He promised to funnel military spending towards border security. And the biggest thing is that he said he's going to stop immigration to the United States like we've never seen before. Now, a lot of these things are promises from his campaign, but in reality, I'm going to break down into 5 areas where I think President Trump will actually do that, those 5 areas, because he already did some of that before, and those are things that are actually possible for him to do. And those 5 areas are very important for you guys if you are here in the United States trying to go through the immigration process, whether you're an asylee or trying to immigrate for family members, or specifically those of you who are overseas trying to get your visa at the US Embassy. You're going to see some of this impact on your process once he becomes president. And I'll go over all these 5 areas one at a time. Before we do that, if you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. And also give us a big like so YouTube will be able to show this video to more people just like you. As always, if you need help with your immigration matters, send me a text 619-483-4549 or go to www.immigrationasap.com. Leave your details there, and one of our team members will contact you ASAP. And now let's jump into the 5 areas where President Trump is going to make big changes in immigration law in 2025. Number 1, we're talking about asylum restrictions. This is some things that he did when he was president, and he promised this through his campaign. And also, it's something that is very possible to do on day 1 of his administration. These asylum restrictions specifically talk about who can apply for asylum at the border and what is the process to do so. If you remember, in 2017 and thereafter, President Trump posed asylum bans on who can apply at which port of entry to apply for asylum, and banning certain people from even entering the United States to apply for asylum. We're talking about Title 42 and all the rules around that. That made the process of applying for asylum very difficult. In fact, many people were blocked for even touching US soil, being able to apply for asylum. So we believe that these restrictions will come back and become even more powerful and more dangerous, and make it very difficult for applicants to become asylees and apply for asylum on US soil. Rules like Title 42 and the restriction of people applying for asylum were definitely challenged by the courts and will continue to be challenged. But remember, if you're an asylee currently in the United States and you're waiting for your hearing or you're waiting for your interview, expect those timelines to become even longer, because these new measures will overburden the courts, overburden the borders, and it's going to make asylum even longer than it is today. So be mindful of this. If you're going through the asylum process right now, speak with your attorney, find ways how you can make this more efficient, or follow up with the government to see what's happening with your case. But remember, number 1, asylum. But we feel that changes to asylum will be one of the first things the Trump administration will implement on day 1 when he takes power after January 2025. Number two, the Remain in Mexico program, also known as MPP. If you remember, under this program, it required people applying for asylum and other immigration benefits to wait for their court hearing outside of the United States, typically in Mexico, where they're trying to enter and claim asylum. So this has been a very harsh program. It created a lot of backlash and was challenged in courts many, many times. And remember, this program faced significant controversy because of its safety to the applicants who are applying. And I believe that it will be implemented again and will be challenged in courts again. But you'll see that these are some of the things that are not just promises. You know, when he's talking about mass deportations, when he's talking about creating camps, these are things that he's talking about. But in reality, it's going to be very difficult to do so. What I'm telling you, the things that we are outlining in this video, things that they already did before, and it's not that hard to bring back. You know, putting restrictions on asylum, bringing back the Remain in Mexico program. These are things they can implement from day one. So remember, these are things that are more logical for them to do, whereas people are worried about these mass deportations or the camps, which we think are not so feasible for them to create. And maybe even if he tries to do so, it's going to be very difficult to do so because it will be blocked by litigation. Number three, and one of the most important changes that I think are coming are the travel bans. And if you're watching this right now and you're applying for a visa at a US embassy or consulate, remember, if you're for a certain country, specifically most of these Muslim countries, you might be subject to these bans, and that will prolong your visa process and create a lot of issues in your immigration, trying to house or any other family members back into the United States. If you remember, these travel bans targeted certain Muslim countries under the pretense of national security, and it created a huge backlog for many, many applicants, not only not being able to apply for immigrant visas, but also it applied for some non-immigrant visas, which created a lot of separations between families, and people were not able to go back to work after going back home to get visa stamps. So what does it mean for you? If you need to get a visa stamp, renew your visa, do so now before January 20th, so you won't be stuck overseas in case those bans are going to come back. If you're applying for a family petition, try to do whatever it takes right now to speed up your case. If you're already in the VC process, try to send them everything you need and see what you can do to expedite. Again, I know you can't do much to move your case forward. I know you cannot do much about priority dates, but whatever you can do, if you're legally able to enter the United States and finish your process inside the United States, it's highly advisable for you to do so, because we don't know if travel bans will be implemented, and if they will, which countries will be impacted, and how long it will prolong all the other immigration processes for other people. So travel bans and delays at US embassies and consulates are definitely going to be consequences of something like that if it will be back and implemented. Number four, the public charge rule. If you remember, the public charge rule was expanded during the Trump administration, a period where they made it more difficult for US citizens to sponsor foreign nationals. They put a bunch of requirements, including financial, social security. They ask you for your education level and different background requirements, which made the public charge almost like a barrier for people to immigrate if they didn't make enough money. They also expanded the list of public benefits that if immigrants used, they'll be barred from immigrating. So, of course, the public charge rule was modified during the Biden administration period. It was brought back to what it was before 2019. It was brought back to what it was before the Trump administration took over. And we expect that the public charge rule could come back and even more expanded. So again, if you are trying to get a green card right now, if you're looking to get some immigration benefits that involve family sponsorship, do so now. Try the process, at least starting now, if you can, because you don't want to be part of this change. If they do implement it, it will make it more complicated for you to immigrate or bring your loved ones back to the United States. So public charge rule will be back under the Trump administration. Number five, border policy and family separation regulations. If you remember, under the Trump administration, the strict border policies led to family separations, children being separated from their parents, entering the United States on their own, and many, many other restrictions that happened at the border. The entire unaccompanied children policy that was very strict during the Trump administration and will continue probably once he becomes president. Now, the border policy is one of those elements that they're definitely going to do something about it. We're not sure exactly how they're going to do it, but if you can see, if learning from what we've seen previously under the Trump administration, it's going to be very easy for them to close borders, create it more difficult for people to arrive, even legally. So this is some of the five policies that we've seen that were used during the previous Trump administration. But it all leads to one conclusion. It's going to make immigration more complicated. It will also impact legal immigration in terms of, lack of visas for high skilled workers, people that will have to wait longer to be able to apply for. So altogether, it creates even more backlogs at embassies and consulates to process cases at USCIS inside the United States. So these five areas I just mentioned to you, the asylum restrictions, remain in Mexico policy, travel entry bans, the public charge rule, border policy, and family separation all lead together to a stricter immigration policy and more backlog delays and more complications for immigrants trying to go through the immigration process. This is all we know or predict right now. Imagine if they do other things as well, which he could. But for the moment, this is kind of what I predict will and possibly could happen in the first year of Trump's administration in power. So once again, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. The purpose of this video is not to scare anyone. It's just for you guys to be aware of what might happen and just for you guys to start preparing yourself. If you're waiting to file for your immigration case, if you're waiting to take care of your immigration status, do so now. Don't wait for 2025. That's the logic here. Once again, if you need help with your immigration matters, send me a text 619-483-4549 or go to www.immigrationsap.com. Leave your details there and one of our team members will contact you ASAP. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on our next video.